Hello friends, today in this session we will learn how to connect a storage account using an Azure Private Endpoints. So before start doing this demo, let's have a look and see what the is the private endpoint is all about and how it work in the scenario of storage account access. So as you can see on the screen, the private endpoint is a network interface that uses a private IP address from your virtual network. Then this network interface connect you privately and securely to a service that's powered by the Azure. By enabling a private endpoint, you are bringing the service into your virtual network. So suppose I'm just giving a simple example here. So suppose we have one virtual machine over here, right? We have a VM, and we all know VM has two type of IP address. One is public IP and the one is private IP, right? Public IP is used to connect this VM from the public network, and private is used to connect this machine from the private network. And on the other end, we have one storage account, and this storage account has allowed public access by default, right? So very simple method. One resource has a public IP address and other resource have a public access, so they can simply connect with each other via public network, right? But suppose a scenario where they don't have the public access, means I'm not giving any public IP address to this VM, and I'm also not giving the public access. I'm disabling this public access on the Azure storage account. Now, the question is how they both machine can connect with each other. So the answer is your private endpoint. Private endpoint will help you in this scenario to connect for both kind of resources. So what exactly will happen when we create the private endpoint? So as we know, the VM has a private IP address from virtual network, right? And the storage account, for the storage account, it create a backend service is called a private endpoint, and this will map with this storage account, and this private endpoint get a network interface card which get a private IP address from your subnet inside your network. So now both resources has a private connection in between, so they can easily connect with each other. So this is the main purpose of the private endpoint, to connect two resources on the private network with a secure manner, right? So this is the main, you know, the theory about the private endpoint. So let's assume one scenario or one example here. I'm just removing the old stuffs so we can get the clear picture here. So let's assume the same scenario here. We create one storage account and we have one VM, right? And in this VM, we are not giving any public IP address to communicate globally, as well as we are disabling, we will disable the public access on this storage account. So again, the question is coming, if both resources don't have the public connection or a public IP address, then how they can connect? So simply, as we discussed so far, we create a private endpoint, and this private endpoint get an IC over here which has got the private IP, and this will map with our storage account. And to access this machine from our global network, we create a bastion. So bastion will get a public IP in backend, will connect with the portal with this public bastion, and then we connect the VM, and later we can connect the storage account via private endpoint. So this is the whole, the demo that we are going to perform here. So let's jump on the portal and see how we can perform, and let's give a look, let's have a look what the resources will create for this demo. So we'll create first a virtual network and bastion to connect globally on the VM, and storage account, and where the disable public access, and create a private endpoint for a storage account, virtual machine with no public access, and then we'll test the connectivity in between virtual machine and the storage account. So let's jump on the portal and see how we can perform this. So now we are on the Azure portal site, and I have logged in with the global admin account. So now start the activity here. So first of all, we create a resource group, so we can put all our resources in the resource group. So let's create a resource group. I'm just giving the resource group name rg underscore private endpoint, and for storage we are doing, and then click on the demo, write the demo word, uh, already used in use, so let's give a different name. I'm just giving the name new, and region East US, review and create. So our resource group is now created, and you can see there is no resource inside the resource group. So go on the home tab. First we create a virtual network and a bastion service. So create a virtual network here, create the new network. I'm just giving the name vnet 1 1. Sorry, this is for the resource group, asking for resource group. So resource group is this one, rg private endpoint for storage, demo new. Virtual network name, I'm just giving vnet 1 1. Click on the next button. Security, we require a bastion service, so click on the enable Azure bastion. It will create a subnet in the backend. So name, I'm just using the bastion here, bastion 1. This is the name of the bastion host. And public IP, I'm just giving the create new public IP here, public IP. Okay, and on the next button we'll go on, this is the our default network subnet network. This is the network range, default subnet and Azure bastion subnet. Go on the default tab. I'm just changing the name for this subnet 1 1, just giving the some random name, preview and create. So just the validation is now passed, and for creating the virtual network, the process is happening here. So wait for a while. Once the network will create, we'll come back and continue the video. Now as you can see, the virtual network has been now created. So as per our requirement, we have created the virtual network and the bastion. Let's create a storage account now. Okay, so jump on the portal side, go on the home button, click on the storage account option, click on the create, and resource group. Will scroll down and find out our resource group, and storage account that should be unique. So I'm just using some random name here with some random number, so it can be unique on the global. And so just check, it's already there. I'm just giving some random number so it can be unique in the environment or globally. Yep, this is the unique name. I'm just change the redundancy option over here. It need to select the LRS, local redundancy storage, and advanced option. I'm not changing anything here. I'm not disabling the public access on this storage account. We'll do it later, and I will let you know why we are not choosing this option here. Let me do one thing. Just select this option and try to review and create this storage account. And there is one problem will come when we have selected the disable network. Let's wait for a while to finish this process of creating storage account. When it will complete, we'll continue our demo. Thank you. So now the storage account has been created now, right? According to let's video, need to create a virtual machine. Not before virtual machine, need to create a private endpoint. Okay, so let's create a private endpoint here. Go on the home button, click on the private endpoint. If you're not getting this on your favorite, you can simply go on the search bar and check the private endpoint option. You'll simply get it from here and click on the create button. I'm creating the new private endpoint for a storage account. Resource group we have created earlier. A name, I'm just giving some random name, so test private endpoint for storage. So I'm just giving a name, storage. And interface, as we have discussed earlier, it will create an interface which will get an private IP address from our subnet. Okay, a resource, to which resource we want to map this private endpoint I'm using for the storage account. So type storage account, and resource. The name is something this. Let me verify my storage account. Just going the portal from the new tab and just verify our storage account name. Click on the storage tab and verify this is the storage account that we have created, but storage account is working fine. But the problem is we are not getting in the list. See, we have the other storage account there inside this resource group. We have a different storage account, but we are not getting our storage account. So why this is happening? Because we have just disabled the public access for this storage account. So just for meanwhile, I'm just saving this for enable from all networks, and once the endpoint will configure, will again disable this access. Okay, so now click on the again and try to find out. I think I need to click on the refresh button, so I'm just discarding the change as of now and doing the same thing again. Resource group, some random name, test endpoint for storage, and interface. I'm not changing anything in the interface. Resource, just scroll down, and storage account is a type of our resource, and you will see, you will get the storage account name. See, the resource group that we are working here for this RG PEPS demo new, and inside this we have storage account. Okay, virtual network, it's not been so resource sub resource type blob, because we are doing this for the blob container. So I'm just selecting the blob resource subtype. Network, I'm doing this for the virtual network. The default, it's selected automatically. I'm just changing the virtual network. Virtual network would be our here, this one, right? So this is our virtual network we have created, and dynamically it allocate a private IP address to our virtual endpoint. Network. Then the next go on the DNS part. DNS part, I'm not changing anything. It's using by default option. Tag, I'm not giving any tag over here. Simply create and review. Okay, so once the validation will pass, just click the create button to come create a private endpoint. Click on the private endpoint. Now we have a virtual network. We have the bastion service inside the virtual network, and we have created the storage account where we'll disable the public access, and also we have created one private endpoint which is now has the private IP address, and we mapped the private endpoint with our storage account, right? Let me go on the diagram that we have. What we have done so far, we have created the storage account, right? We have the private endpoint, we have the VM. We have not created the VM, we are create later, and we have the NIC which is having the private IP from this subnet, and we also created Azure Bastion subnet. Azure Bastion subnet has the uh, Bastion service with the public IP address. So this is the things that we have done to, and also we have done the virtual network. So this is this part we have done so far, and now we need to create the VM, and VM that after that will disable the public IP on this VM, then try to access the storage account from this VM. Okay, so again back on the G jump on the portal, and this is still in the progress. So for a meanwhile, I'm just pausing my video, and I'll come back once the process will complete. Thank you. Now, as we can see, the process is completed. Now we have the private endpoint with the private IP address. Now creating the virtual machine with no public IP address. Okay, on the same network, on the same subnet. Okay, resource group, we have created this one. VM name, I'm simply just giving the VM01 for the test purpose of the test machine. I'm not changing the region availability. I'm not touching anything over here. Trusted. I'm just giving the standard one. I'm choosing the data center 16 OS with 64 Gen 2, and giving the some random username. Okay. Password. I'm just giving the password here, and here the password. Okay. For the public inbound port, I am not allowing any port here. Okay. So uh, ignore this message. I'm not touching anything on the disk part, networking part. I'm not changing subnet, public IP. I'm not giving any public IP on this virtual machine because we have the private configuration, private IP configuration over here. And the other part, I'm not touching anything in the other parts. I'm just clicked on the review and create button. Okay. So let's wait to validate then process finish. Click on the create button. So I'm just creating one virtual machine here, and there is no public IP. So we are unable to connect with, or we can take RDP this machine with the public IP address. So we have the bastion service in backend. So we'll use the bastion service to connect with this VM. Okay. So let's finish this deployment process. When it will done, we'll again create our video continue. Okay. Thanks. So now, as we can see, we have the VM now, and if I go on the VM side and try to check, we don't have any public IP here. So this is the things, the we have the VM now, storage account and private endpoint, virtual network, and the subnet we have, and the bastion. Right now, let's go on the storage account side, and on the storage account that we have created, click on the container and create the container, so we can access that container. Just giving the name container 1. Okay. Cannot use the capital letter here, so just giving the name container 1. Okay. Just giving the name container 1. Click on the public access, the word we are the access level is private, right? So only the private network can access this blob container. Okay, just click on the create button, and so now I have the access key to provide authentication on this storage account. I'm checking the connection string. Okay, connection string I have just copied on the notepad and just paste this connection string. It will use to connect on VM. Okay, so go on the home button, click on the VM, and our VM is this VM01 test, and click on the connect button, and here need to connect with the bastion. To go to bastion, just log in with a username and the password we have created here, and click on the connect button. So now through the bastion we are trying to connect on the VM, allow the options. So now we are able to connect on the VM with the help of bastion. Okay, let's wait to load up the full machine. Then Okay, now we'll install storage file explorer so we can connect the container which is on the storage account. Okay, so now I need to download the edge because on the explorer we couldn't download and install the Azure storage. um, okay, on the internet, let's load this page complete. Just using the one more thing, I need to just disable the security, so we will not get the other pop-up during the process. Need to just go on the local server, and I'm just disabling the IE enhanced security configuration, so we'll not get the extra pop-up during the process. I'm just closing this one again. I'll open again IE and just download the edge very fast. I'm just download the edge browser. Need to download the edge browser launch, and where this again coming. Okay, leave it, I'll check it later. Okay, click on the accept download option, just click on the run button and see if the edge is able to download. Yep, it's downloading, and the downloading and download done. Installing the edge now. It will take a few seconds to install the Microsoft Edge. Let's wait to finish. It is taking time. I'm just pausing the video, and when these will confirm and configured, I'll come back. So now we have on the Edge Explorer. Okay, and on the Edge side we have just write the Azure Storage Explorer downloads. So click on this first link, and here need to go the down and click on the download option, and we are doing for the Windows, so click on the Windows OS version, and this software is downloaded now, and try to install this one. Click on the run button and install for me only, and the other option we are waiting to come, except the agreement part. Install and install the .NET 6. I'm waiting to finish this process. Once this will configure and installed properly, click on the location tab next, and this things next, and this is installing on the default location. Let's wait here to finish this process, and it will take few seconds only. Let's wait for finish this one. It will take few seconds. Okay, the setup has done. I'm not unchecking this launch because I want to open this tool. So this is now open the console. I'm just click on this tab, and it will ask me to connect with the which kind of a resource type on storage. I'm just using this storage and connection services. I'm just, because I have the connection string which we have copied on the notepad. I'm just copy the all notepad connection string and click on the next button, and it would ask me the connection string. I'm just giving the connection string name, and you can see we get the display name over here, and click on the next button and connect. Okay, so as you can see, It's now connected. If I try to connect the blob container, and we have the container when, as you can see, we are properly connected on this one machine. And if I'm trying to do the same thing on the portal side, if I go on the portal side and home tab and the storage account, and storage account side, I'm checking the containers. I'm trying to open my container which we have created, and you can see it will allowing me. Why it is allowing me? Just checking the one thing, storage account, and the we have we have not, I think, just disabled this. Okay, so I'm just disabling this connection for all, right? Public network and all kind of a network public will disable this public access. Okay, now I'm going to check and again go on the storage account and check the container. Our container, you can see I'm not able to access this here. Okay, so if I also have the Azure, I guess the Explorer installed on my system as well. If I open on the my personal laptop and try to connect my storage account, and possibly I will not able to get on the connect. Why I'm saying this? Because we have disabled the global public access on my storage account. We are only allowed with the private network. So you have the private endpoint which is only configured for a specific subnet, and my VM is coming on that subnet. That's why it's allowing to connect on my storage account as per my the you can see the screen over here. The storage account is only connecting with this VM, right? Because it is under this subnet, and we only allowed in the private endpoint for this subnet only. Apart from this subnet, globally nobody will access to this storage account, right? And we have seen through the portal side as well, we are unable to connect. Okay, I'm just trying to open the Azure uh, storage tool on my device. So I'm just trying to connect here as well. The storage account service. This is the this is the Azure tool on my personal laptop. I'm using the same connection string we have copied. Think the same string. Yep, the same string we had copied. I'm just copy the string name, paste it over here, and try to connect. You will see we are able to connect on the storage account, but we are unable to because we target the blob storage, and this is the trying to connect our the container one just we have created, but it's not allowing us, it's not authenticating us. Why? Because we are trying to connect that storage account with our global network, right? So this is the whole practical we have done so far. We have achieved here. We are able to connect this storage account via this machine only. Why? Because this is only allowing in the subnet. Suppose in this subnet we again create a new VM, then in such case this VM also able to connect the storage account. So whatever the VM inside the subnet only allow to connect on the storage account. So this is the main purpose for the private endpoint, to connect to resource with on the private network only, right? Thank you for watching this video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.